Welcome, I'm Harriet Agbini. Tonight, appeal court nullifies the election of former Senate President David Mark, orders a rerun of the poll for Benue South senatorial seat. Fight against terrorism takes center stage as Commonwealth summit kicks off in Malta. President Buhari seeks groups assistance for terror-affected member states. Department of State Security warns of planned attacks on mosques and churches by Boko Haram in Abuja. And Russia slams a package of economic sanctions against Turkey over the downing of its military jet on Tuesday.
And on business news tonight, the all-share index finishes the week in the red after 4 consecutive days of negative trading.
And on sports news, boxing fans across the world eagerly await the outcome of tonight's highly anticipated boxing bout between Vladimir Klitschko and Tyson Fury.
We begin tonight in Makurdi, the Benue State capital, north-central Nigeria, where a court of appeal has nullified the election of former Senate President David Mark. The court, which ruled on 6 grounds of appeal, also ordered a rerun of the poll within 90 days. The All Progressives Congress candidate for Benue South senatorial districts, Mr. Donald Onje, had challenged the decision of the National and State Assembly Election Petitions Tribunal, which upheld the victory of former Senate President David Mark of the People's Democratic Party. In a ruling delivered by Justice Olabisi Ige, the court ruled that the election of Mr. Mark was fraught with many irregularities, that it failed all tests of freeness and fairness.
For me, it is a welcome development for democracy. It is victory for Nigerian democracy, freedom, total freedom for the entire Benue South people. We appreciate the principled stand of the justices of the Court of Appeal to have set aside the perverse judgment of the tribunal that dismissed my petition. We also want to appreciate the Justice Dupolu-led tribunal that dismissed my petition because it was blessing in disguise. They left several loopholes that we capitalized on the appeal. And those were the things that pronouncements were made upon. We had a very, very, very good potent ground to nullify the elections, but the tribunal overlooked these issues. But we thank God that these justices of the Court of Appeal have indeed distinguished themselves to show that they are not judges but justices.
Okay. We are bound by the judgment. This is the last bus stop in the hierarchy of courts as far as the settlement of senatorial elections is concerned. But my personal feeling about the judgment, which is not too relevant, is that we have seen today the emergence of a new jurisprudence. Some of the conclusions arrived at by the court were quite strange to me, in the sense that they seem to have turned on their head principles which we had now taken to be trite. But that notwithstanding, we are bound. The 2 combatants will return to the trenches, and then we will see whether what the wishes of the people would be in that situation.
Meanwhile, the former Senate President David Mark has asked his constituents to remain calm and be law-abiding following the decision by the Benue State Election Appeal Tribunal. In a statement from his media aide, Paul Mume, Senator Mark told his people not to be deterred by the verdict but be strengthened ahead of the rerun. He believes he won the election convincingly and has no doubt that his constituents would turn out en masse to vote for him again. In his words, quote, "Whatever the situation may be, one thing I know is that my people are solidly behind me. They also appreciate the fact that I have done more than enough to lift up Idoma Nation to a position of eminence in the contemporary political history of Nigeria." End of quote. The video you're watching is the scene of the violence that broke out earlier today in Ajaokuta in Kogi State, north-central Nigeria, following a protest by some youth groups. They blocked the expressway with burning tires, leaving many motorists and passengers stranded, but were eventually dispersed by the police, who shot into the air to scare off the protesters. The youth were clamoring for the choice of Mohammed Audu as the candidate of the All Progressives Congress in the supplementary governorship election scheduled for December the 5th. Mohammed Audu is the son of Prince Abubakar Audu, who was candidate of the APC in the November 21st governorship election, but died just as the electoral umpire declared the poll inconclusive.
Traveling from Abuja to Aba in Abia State.
So for how long have you been?
For over 5 hours, we are stranded in this place. We are stranded because of what we don't know anything about it. All what we are hearing is that the Kogi election is the problem. What concerns us with Kogi election?
Britain's Queen Elizabeth II has opened a two-day summit of leaders of the 53 Commonwealth nations in Malta. The Commonwealth Heads of State Government meeting, held every 2 years, will focus on climate change, with talks on security issues also expected. Ahead of the meeting, UK Prime Minister David Cameron pledged to set up a Commonwealth unit to target the scourge of extremism. He says the group of nations has a vital role to play in tackling terrorism, and he pledged £5 million to help fund the unit.
Leaders arrive for the opening session of the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting known as CHOGM in the Maltese capital of Valletta. The three-day meeting has climate change and the fight against terrorism as the main issues on the agenda. Queen Elizabeth II officially opened the discussions, saying the Commonwealth leaders will at this meeting be charged with demonstrating leadership on an agenda of global issues.
At this meeting, the Commonwealth will be charged with demonstrating leadership, often in practical ways, on an agenda of global issues and drawing on the distinctive contribution of our members. I wish you every success in this endeavour.
In his opening speech, Malta's Prime Minister Joseph Muscat says the fight against radicalization should be paramount for the Commonwealth countries in the next few years.
They are called education and employment. Terrorists are more scared of well-educated girls and boys who manage to get a good job than they will ever be of any army. This is the Commonwealth's natural territory, and this is where our organization is already giving its input and should increase it exponentially. By tackling this issue, we would also be touching on a series of other crucial issues.
Meanwhile, the French President François Hollande says it is the duty of mankind to reach an agreement on climate change, comparing environmental damage to the threat of terrorism.
Lundi, à Paris, va s'ouvrir la conférence sur le climat.
Man is the worst enemy of man.
C'est un devoir.
We can see it with terrorism, but we can say the same when it comes to climate. Human beings are destroying nature, damaging the environment. It is therefore for human beings to face up to their responsibilities for the future generations. And we want to destroy terrorism. And for a number of weeks I've been traveling the world in order first of all to call upon the EU countries, but also all of the countries impacted and for which terrorism is relevant. It is because we are all defending a vision of mankind.
Leaders from 53 countries are attending the meeting that will continue until Sunday, November the 29th, a day before a major United Nations climate change conference is set to begin in Paris. The Commonwealth is an association of 53 countries which came together following the decolonization of the British Empire.
In the meantime, President Muhammadu Buhari has called for the establishment of a Commonwealth Committee to oversee the rendering of greater assistance and support to Nigeria and other member countries who have been adversely affected by the scourge of terrorism. At a banquet hosted by Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II for heads of state and government participating in the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting, President Buhari expressed hope that the committee would be established before the next meeting of the organization. The President urged the Commonwealth to show greater resolve in helping Nigeria and other developing nations in its ranks to overcome the challenges of economic development, security, terrorism and corruption. Kogi State Governor Umar Ganduje has condemned Friday's attack on the Shiite procession at a border town between Kano and Kaduna State. Visiting the site of the blast, Governor Ganduje says although the Shiite leadership has refused to hand over the suspects they arrested to the police, but investigation shows that over 30 people were injured. Mr. Ganduje, who expressed worries over the increasing number of attacks in Kano, also called on residents to continue to be vigilant as government will continue to do its best to protect lives and property. The governor was also at the Murtala Mohammed Specialist Hospital, where some of the victims are being treated. He directed officials of the State Ministry of Health to ensure that all the victims are given adequate treatment.
We learned 2 of the Boko Haram were inside the procession. One was captured before exploding, while the other one immediately exploded at this scene where we are standing here. Many died, we learned 21, but nobody can say precisely because the Shiite group took all the dead people along with them, and also the arrested Boko Haram who could not detonate the bomb, also they carried him along. But there are over 30 people who are injured. They are now in different hospitals in Kano Metropolitan. We are going to see them in the hospital. So we call members of the public to be more vigilant. The security agencies are doing their best, especially the military, the police, the SSS, even the civil defense, and many other stakeholders in security are trying their best.
Kano State Governor Abdullahi Ganduje. In part 2, after the break, we take a look at the readiness of the police to deal with criminal activities, especially as we enter the festive season. Please stay with us.